Well, heidi-ho, Siouxland neighbors. We are back for another edition of the Playbook Pundits podcast. I am Assistant Sports Editor Shane Lantz, and this is Sports Editor Zach James coming at you for another week. And we had a lot go on this past Friday, or this past weekend in general in Siouxland sports. I mean, what leaked out at you this past weekend?
I think it was the game you covered on Friday night. Let's just start there. OABCIG beating Spirit Lake in a thriller. I think it was the game of in the entire state on Friday night. A back-and-forth battle that the Falcons eventually won. And like I said on Friday night, I thought the home field advantage would be a big key, and it rang true. What did you see?
I was just amazed by the final drive. I mean, another inside football thing, I usually leave the press box about 3 minutes left, go down to the sidelines, try to get some video and take some notes. I went down there right as soon as the defense recovered a fumble. I think it was at the 20 on the other side of the field. And then Beckett DeJean just methodically drove OABCIG down the field, and they get a touchdown pass with just over a minute left, and the crowd just lost it. And it was great. It was just really fun to watch that kind of energy. And then there was, like we said, a minute left, so they had to get a stop on defense. And with just a few seconds left, or an amount of time where you could kneel the ball, Josh Peters came up with an interception at the 5-yard line, and it was just, as a football watcher, it was just a lot of fun to watch. I had a blast covering that game.
Was it what you anticipated? Did it live up to the hype?
I think so. I mean, with a #1 team in Spirit Lake going up against the 2-time defending champions, I mean, you knew that was going to be just one heck of a matchup. And having two top-ranked teams like that, I think OABCIG with a #4 going into that, I knew it was going to be a lot of fun, very competitive. And what I was impressed by was second half, Beckett, he mentioned after the game that the coaches, they want to see him run the ball more, just kind of like his older brother did. I mean, that's what Cooper was known for, was running and being able to do that. And Beckett, he said that he started doing that in the second half, and that really opened things up in the passing game. And yeah, I was very impressed by just his poise and his ability to just win the ball game for his team.
What impressed you about Spirit Lake?
I think Riley Reynolds very much impressed me. I mean, he's quarterback of the #1 team in the state at that point, and he threw some passes that were just into some tight windows. He had near just surgical precision of where he wanted to put the ball, and he could run the ball very effectively too. That OABCIG defense, they had a hard time stopping him at times, and Coach Larry Allen, he mentioned last week, his defense gives up a lot of yards, but they don't tend to give up a lot of points. They seem to just lock it down in the red zone for some reason.
Maybe they should have their team start every drive in the red zone.
Maybe. That might make them unstoppable. But yeah, I was very impressed by both quarterbacks. I honestly, either team would have been deserving of winning that game. And yeah, talking to both coaches, they both said that was one of the most exciting games they'd ever seen. I mean, just the ending, the finish to it, it was a blast to cover.
Let's move into the Metro now, and only 2 Metro teams won on Friday.
Rough.
It was a little rough for most of the fans around the Metro. Only South Sioux and Sergeant Bluff-Luton winning over the weekend. Everybody else took some tough losses. Let's start with South Sioux. Winning 2 in a row, turning the corner. I really didn't think they could after losing that overtime heartbreaker to West, but here they are with 2 wins under their belt and going for a 3rd in a row this weekend against Bennington. And the thing that Coach Chris Stein talks a lot about to me, I called him after the game on Friday, and Domenico Young obviously scoring all 3 of those touchdowns. That was huge for the Cardinals, but the defense stepped up too, and having Todd Comstock and Tyler Knowles step up for the defense for the Cardinals was huge. I think Comstock had 7 total tackles, and Knowles had 6.5. Somebody else had 6.5, and I apologize that I don't remember off the top of my head, but that Cardinals defense is starting to come alive, and that might be the key for the Cardinals to kind of build some momentum going for the rest of the end of the season.
And yeah, you mentioned that overtime loss to West earlier in the year. There's 2 ways that teams can kind of respond from heartbreak. I mean, you can kind of take that on the chin and just kind of be like, what's the point now, and just kind of let it ruin the rest of your season, or you can respond how they've responded. They've come back and they've gotten a couple of wins, and they've kind of shown a little bit of fortitude, and I've been very impressed with the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to see if they can pull it off again.
And everyone in the Metro, except for Heelan, and they may get one. You never know. They have 3 chances left, but 6 of the 7 of the Metros now have a win.
Yeah, and that's very cool. I mean, this week we didn't see a whole lot of them. I mean, we had Ankeny Centennial take down East 30-0. Waukee Northwest took down Sioux City West 74-0. So that was a bit of a punch on the chin.
A little bit of a disappointment.
Ames took down North 27-14. Like you mentioned, we have Heelan losing to MOC Floyd Valley by 2 touchdowns. And then Dakota Valley dropping 27-13 to West Central. So yeah, I guess this week it's a potential bounce back week for most of the metro area.
And you mentioned a lot of those Des Moines metro or suburban area teams facing teams. We'll see that coming up this week. Waukee Northwest comes to town to face East on Thursday night, and then Waukee the original Waukee comes
Waukee
comes to town on Friday night to face North. So I think it's cool to see the suburban teams from Des Moines come up here, because one, it gives the Sioux City schools recognition, like what we talked about I think 3 weeks ago when all 3 city schools won. It gives that recognition, that it garners that respect from the eastern side of the state, and that includes the Des Moines schools.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's even going back to when I worked at Mason City. It was a lot of the same. I mean, if you beat a suburban school or you beat a Des Moines school, I mean, that's big for those kids.
Yep.
I mean, Sioux City itself is not a small area. There are small towns, but it itself is not a small town. But yeah, when you can go to Des Moines or you can beat them on your home turf, I mean, that's very meaningful. And yeah, I think there's several teams that have a chance to just come out with some big victories.
One other game that, as we jump back out into the Siouxland, one other game that caught my attention was Kingsley Pearson fighting tough against Newell Central, only losing 41-34. The Mustangs have a big game coming up this week against Remsen St. Mary's, and the Panthers gave them a really tough challenge. Jackson Howe, I think, had 3 touchdowns in that game, and Mason Dix of Newell Fonda had 3 touchdowns as well. What do you see in that game? That's going to be a game we're going to focus on later this week. What do you see in that game between the Hawks and the Mustangs?
I mean, it's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I mean, those squads both have kids that are multi-sport stars. I mean, tons of recognizable names from baseball, from basketball, from football. I mean, honestly, that's another one that I hesitate to even predict a winner, just because it's gonna be a really fun head-to-head matchup. I mean, it's something that we can dive into even later in the week, just kind of the ins and outs and the who we think the stars will be. But at first glance, yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye on.
We'll touch up on this again during a live video cats on Friday too, which by the way you can see at SiouxCityJournal.com at 5 o'clock on Friday. So tune in for that. This is a huge sports weekend in the Siouxland.
We're going to be busy.
We're going to be busy boys. We've got high school football Friday night, college football Saturday. Both Briarcliff and Morningside have their homecoming games. Briarcliff facing Hastings, Morningside hosting Midland. We've got Night of Conflict, a big wrestling tournament. It started here last year. It'll be at the Longline Center this year, and some of the state's top wrestlers, both boys and girls, are going to be in town facing off against one another. So that's going to be exciting. On the other end of the arena, we've got the Musketeers home opener.
We do. It's hockey season
It's hockey season finally again in Sioux City. And I think that's all that I can think of over the weekend. Like big time events. I'm sure there's plenty of other things going on. It's a fun weekend in the Siouxland if you're a sports fan.
Absolutely. I mean, fun to be a sports fan, fun and chaotic to be a sports writer. I mean, we're just going all over the place, just trying to put out fires everywhere we can and get the stories to you. But yeah, I'm very excited just to see the chaos that is going to be Friday and Saturday. It'll be a lot of fun.
As a sports fan, I'm looking forward to it because
absolutely, yeah.
When you have live local sporting events, especially now that we get sports again, live sports again after the shutdown, it really is cool to see multiple sporting events in town, including Night of Conflict, which we'll have a preview on this week too.
And it might be controversial. I prefer when sports are happening versus when sports are not happening.
Yes, I do too.
I hope the rest of you agree with that.
Yes, I think they do.
That's how we get our livelihood going.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
yeah, that's a lot of fun. You can keep track of all of it at SiouxCityJournal.com. And follow us both on Twitter. I mean, we're both probably going to be live tweeting some events that we're going to be covering.
Yeah.
I know I will. I tweet way too much, but that's kind of part of my thing now, I guess. Just tweeting all day long.
And of course, Seahawks 49ers on Sunday.
Oh, rivalry week.
Go Niners.
Seahawks. I mean, after yesterday, my God, I have no idea what's going to happen in that game.
I don't either.
It's going to be madness. I can't wait to either just dread coming into work on Monday or just be looking forward to making your life miserable for the day.
All right, good enough. For more, check out SiouxCityJournal.com for more stories, videos, photos, all the like. There at SiouxCityJournal.com. Make sure to check us out there. For Assistant Sports Editor Shane Lantz, I'm Sports Editor Zach James. We'll see you on Friday. Thanks for watching.
Toodaloo.